Imagine a place so pristine, so vividly alive, that it's often called the aquarium of the world. A place where the water isn't just blue, but a living, breathing kaleidoscope. Now, imagine that this paradise is hiding a secret ticking clock, a vulnerability that could cause it to vanish within our lifetime. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario, it's the precise and urgent reality for every single tropical lagoon surrounded by coral reefs on our planet. What you're about to see is not merely a visual escape. It's a deep dive into the most complex and fragile ecosystem in our oceans, an ecosystem that feeds millions, protects coastlines from catastrophic storms, and holds the cure for diseases we haven't even encountered yet. Today, we're going beyond the postcard perfect image of turquoise water and white sand. We are submerging ourselves into the beating heart of a coral lagoon to understand its true scale, its genius, and the silent crisis it faces that most visitors floating on its surface are completely unaware of. I want you to look at your screen not as a window to a distant vacation, but as a portal to a world that is quite literally the foundation of life for our blue planet. So let's begin at the very edge where the ocean meets the land, and let me show you why. This isn't just a beautiful place, it's the most important biological engine you've never fully understood. The journey to a tropical lagoon begins paradoxically far out at sea, with the relentless, epochal work of volcanoes and tectonic plates. Millions of years ago, a volcanic island punched its way through the ocean surface. As it cooled and settled, a fringing reef of coral began to grow along its shores, a living fortress in the making. Then, over millennia, the central island began to slowly sink, succumbing to its own weight and the elastic give of the oceanic crust. But the coral, that miraculous animal, had a trick. It grows only in the sunlit zone, desperately needing the symbiotic algae within its tissues for food. So as the island sank, the coral grew upward, perpetually reaching for the light. This created a massive, submarine mountain of dead coral skeleton below, with a thin, vibrant skin of living coral on top. Eventually, the central island vanishes beneath the waves, leaving only a circular, submerged rim of coral and atoll. And cradled within its arms is the lagoon. But not all lagoons are born from atolls. Some, called barrier reef lagoons, form when a reef grows parallel to a continental shelf or large island separated by a deep channel. The Great Barrier Reef isn't a single reef, but a colossal system of over 2,900 individual reefs that create a labyrinth of lagoons along Australia's coast. The scale is incomprehensible. It's the only living structure visible from space. The lagoon itself, this seemingly placid swimming pool, is deceptively deep. It's not a uniform bathtub. Its floor is a dramatic landscape of sand plains, patch reefs that rise like alien skyscrapers from the abyss, coral bommies, and deep blue holes that plunge into darkness. The water you see is a dynamic entity. It's constantly being refreshed by ocean currents that surge through passes in the reef, but the coral rim acts as a filter, calming the powerful oceanic swell into a gentle lap. This creates two utterly different worlds: the outer reef wall, a sheer cliff facing the fury of the open ocean, and the inner lagoon, a nursery of calm. The temperature in a lagoon is consistently warm, often between 26 to 30 degrees Celsius year-round. But this very warmth, as we will see, is becoming its greatest enemy. The magic, however, lies not in the water or the geology, but in the architects, the coral polyps. Before we meet them, I need you to do something for me. If you're fascinated by the sheer scale and ancient origin of these places, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because understanding how this world was built is just the first chapter. The real story is in the daily drama of life and death happening right now in these waters, a story we are about to continue, and you won't want to miss a single detail. Now let's zoom in from the satellite view to the microscopic, to the organism that makes all of this possible, the coral polyp. Forget everything you think you know about coral being a rock or a plant. What you're looking at is an animal, a soft, insect-like creature, closely related to jellyfish and sea anemones. Each polyp is minuscule, often no larger than a pinhead, and it lives in a self-made fortress of calcium carbonate, a limestone skeleton it extracts from the seawater. This act of construction is one of the great biological marvels of our planet. But here's the twist. The polyp is not working alone. Inside its transparent tissues, it hosts millions of microscopic algae called zooxanthellae. This is a partnership, a symbiosis, so perfect it borders on alchemy. The algae, like all plants, photosynthesize. They take the sunlight penetrating the clear lagoon water, the carbon dioxide waste from the polyp, and they produce oxygen and, crucially, organic compounds, sugars, glycerol, and amino acids. In fact, they produce so much food that they supply up to 90% of the polyp's energy needs. In return, the polyp provides the algae with a safe, sunlit apartment and a steady supply of nutrients. This is the fundamental bargain upon which the entire reef ecosystem is built. This partnership is also why coral reefs only exist in shallow, clear, tropical waters. The algae need sunlight, and it's why corals display those breathtaking colors. The pigments come from the algae. But this is a high-stakes, fragile alliance. When the polyp is stressed, particularly by elevated water temperatures, it panics and expels its algal partners. This is called coral bleaching. The coral isn't dead immediately, but it is starving, its bone-white skeleton visible through its now transparent tissue. If the stress is brief, the algae can return. If it lasts for weeks, the coral will die. This single biological process is the heartbeat of the lagoon, and its disruption is the root of the crisis we see today. The architecture of a reef is a masterclass in efficiency and survival. Corals grow in colonies of thousands of identical polyps, all clones connected by a living tissue layer. Their growth forms are a direct response to their environment, a language we can learn to read. On the turbulent outer reef slope, you'll find massive boulder-like corals like porites, growing slowly but sturdily to withstand the crashing waves. Some of these colonies are over 1,000 years old, living records of past climates. In the calm of the lagoon, you see delicate, branching corals like staghorn and elkhorn. They grow rapidly, up to 10 centimeters a year, to outcompete each other for light and space, creating intricate forests that provide shelter for fish. There are plate corals that spread out like tabletops to capture every photon of light in deeper water, and brain corals with their meandering valleys that house different polyps. This complex architecture creates what ecologists call the three-dimensional structural complexity of the reef. This isn't just scenery, it's real estate. Every nook, cranny, and branch is a home, a hunting ground, or a nursery. It increases the surface area of the ecosystem 1,000-fold, allowing an immense diversity of life to coexist. A single acre of healthy coral reef can host over 1,000 different species of fish, invertebrates, and algae. To put that in perspective, that's a biodiversity rivaling that of a tropical rainforest. But the coral polyps are just the foundation. The real explosion of life comes from the tenants. And the daily rhythm of the lagoon is governed by a shift change, a dramatic diurnal migration that is one of the greatest spectacles on Earth. As the sun sets over the lagoon, the day shifts. The colorful parrotfish, butterflyfish, and damselfish retreat into the coral crevices to secrete mucus sleeping bags for protection. And the night shift emerges. Moray eels slide from their holes, lobsters and crabs march across the sand, and octopuses, the geniuses of the reef, begin their intricate hunt. This shift is driven by a simple, brutal logic: to avoid predators and exploit different food sources. The story of the lagoon is written in these daily, hourly interactions. If you are captivated by the intimate alien world of the coral polyp and the intricate city it builds, then you need to be a part of this exploration. Show me you're invested in this journey by hitting the like button on this video right now. It helps this message reach more people who care, and it fuels our dive into the next layer of this ecosystem, the chaotic, beautiful frenzy of life that calls this coral city home. With the coral city built, the tenants arrive in a riot of color, strategy, and sound. Entering a tropical lagoon is like stepping into a bustling metropolis, where every creature has a job, a territory, and a constant threat looming. Let's start with the noise. If you were to put hydrophones underwater, you wouldn't hear the silence of the deep. You'd hear a cacophony of snaps, pops, grunts, and croaks. The pistol shrimp, no larger than your thumb, can snap its specialized claw so fast it creates a cavitation bubble that, upon collapse, produces a sound louder than a gunshot and a flash of light hot as the sun, all to stun its prey. This sonic backdrop is the reef's constant heartbeat. Now, meet the residents. The parrotfish, the lawnmowers of the reef, are perhaps the most crucial citizens after the corals themselves. They use their beak-like teeth, fused into a parrot's bill, to scrape algae off the coral rock. In doing so, they perform two vital functions. They keep fast-growing algae from smothering the slow-growing coral, and they produce sand. Yes, the white sand of tropical beaches is largely parrotfish poop. A single large parrotfish can produce up to 400 pounds of sand a year. Their constant grazing is essential for reef health. Then come the surgeons, the butterfly fish and the angelfish, flitting like jewels between the branches, picking at coral polyps, small invertebrates, and sponges. But this is not a peaceful society. It is a world of constant, high-stakes drama. The clownfish, immortalized in animation, lives a life of calculated risk nestled within the stinging tentacles of a sea anemone. It secretes a protective mucus that makes it immune to the anemone's venom, gaining a fortress from which it boldly defends its tiny patch of reef. Above, Trevally and Barracuda patrol like fighter jets, their sleek bodies designed for explosive speed to ambush schools of smaller fish. The lagoon floor, often dismissed as barren sand, is a world in itself. This is the realm of the ambush predator. The stonefish, the most venomous fish in the world, lies perfectly camouflaged as a rock, waiting for a hapless fish to swim by. The flounder, a master disguise, buries itself with only its periscope eyes showing, ready to erupt from the sand. And then there are the ecosystem engineer species that physically change their environment. The humble garden eel colony turns a plain sand flat into a waving field of living reeds, each eel retreating into its burrow at the slightest shadow. But the true architects of the sand are the burrowing creatures, hard urchins, sand dollars, and a plethora of worms that constantly churn and oxygenate the sediment, recycling nutrients. In the deeper, darker recesses of the lagoon's patch reefs and drop-offs, the rules change. Here, filter feeders dominate. Giant clams, some weighing over 400 pounds, embed themselves in the coral. Their vibrantly colored mantles are also packed with symbiotic algae, but they filter the water directly too. Sea fans, sea whips, and sponges of every color and texture rise into the current, their porous bodies filtering out planktonic food. This is the hidden economy of the lagoon, a constant flow of energy. The outer reef wall absorbs the raw power of the ocean, the lagoon calms it, and the corals and algae capture the sun's energy. This energy is then transferred up the food web, from plankton to herbivore to predator, in a cycle of astonishing efficiency. But this delicate balance is perpetually under threat from within and without. The crown-of-thorns starfish, a native predator, can in population outbreaks devour vast swathes of living coral, leaving behind skeletal highways. The balance of this entire metropolis hinges on a complex web of relationships that we are only beginning to understand. If you're as amazed by this underwater metropolis as I am, I want you to join our community. Take a second to comment below with the name of the most fascinating reef creature you know or have ever seen. Let's build a conversation about the incredible biodiversity of these places because acknowledging its complexity is the first step toward protecting it. For centuries, these lagoons have been more than just ecological wonders. They have been the lifeblood of human civilization. To the people of the Pacific Islands, the Caribbean, the Maldives, and coastal communities across the tropics, the lagoon is not a postcard. It is their supermarket, their pharmacy, their storm shield, and their cultural soul. This relationship is one of profound interdependence. Traditionally, communities developed intricate, sustainable methods of harvesting from the reef. They understood the lunar cycles for spawning, established taboo areas where fishing was forbidden, an ancient form of marine protected area, and used tools and techniques that targeted specific species without damaging the wider habitat. The reef provided a reliable source of protein in otherwise nutrient-poor environments, but the value goes far beyond food. The physical structure of the coral reef is the planet's most effective natural coastal defense. A healthy, complex reef can absorb up to 97% of a wave's energy. During tsunamis and hurricanes, reefs have been scientifically proven to reduce wave height and force, preventing catastrophic erosion and saving lives and property inland. The economic value of this service is staggering. It's estimated to be in the tens of billions of dollars annually worldwide, providing a free, self-repairing breakwater. Furthermore, the lagoon is a frontier of modern medicine. The extreme competition for space and survival on the reef has led to an evolutionary arms race of chemical warfare. Organisms produce complex compounds to deter predators, fight infections, and prevent overgrowth. These compounds are gold mines for biomedical research. Drugs derived from sponges and tuna cats are used in chemotherapy to fight cancer. Cone snail venom is being studied for pain relief, 1,000 times more potent than morphine without the addictive side effects. The coral skeleton itself, with its perfect porous structure, is used as a bone graft substitute in surgeries. We are literally mining the reef for the future of human health. However, this ancient bond is under unprecedented strain from what scientists call the Anthropocene, the age of human dominance. The threats are no longer just local overfishing or pollution, though those are devastating. They are now global and existential. The primary assassin is climate change. The ocean has absorbed over 90% of the excess heat trapped by greenhouse gases. For corals, which live within a very narrow temperature band, this is a death sentence. Mass bleaching events, once rare, are now occurring with frightening frequency. The Great Barrier Reef has suffered 5 major mass bleaching events since 2016. The second killer is ocean acidification. As the ocean absorbs excess atmospheric carbon dioxide, its chemistry changes, becoming more acidic. This makes it harder, and eventually impossible, for corals and shell-building creatures to extract calcium carbonate from the water. They must expend more energy to build their skeletons, leading to weaker, more fragile structures. It's like trying to build a house while someone slowly dissolves your bricks. The third major threat is land-based pollution. Runoff from agriculture, containing fertilizers and pesticides, flows into the lagoons. The fertilizer causes algal blooms that smother coral and block sunlight. Sediment from deforestation and coastal development clouds the water, again starving the light-dependent zooxanthellae. The trifecta of warming, acidifying, and polluted water is a cocktail that the reef has never faced in its millions of years of history. The data is not a prediction, it's a current observation. Scientists estimate we have lost over 50% of the world's coral reefs in the last 30 to 40 years, and projections suggest up to 90% could be gone by 2050 if we continue on our current trajectory. This isn't just about losing pretty fish. It's about the collapse of a system that supports nearly 1 billion people with food, livelihood, and coastal protection. The line between an ecological tragedy and a human humanitarian crisis is vanishing as quickly as the coral itself. This is the shocking truth behind the beautiful imagery. But this is not the end of the story. If this reality hits home for you, if you understand that the fate of these lagoons is inextricably linked to our own, then I need you to share this video. Share it with one person who might not know this story. Knowledge is the first tool for change, and spreading it is the most powerful action you can take right now. Confronted with this stark reality, it's easy to fall into despair, to think the fate of these lagoons is sealed. But look again at the coral polyp. This tiny animal has survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, and sea level changes over hundreds of millions of years. It is a survivor, and around the world, a coalition of scientists, conservationists, local communities, and even technologists are harnessing that spirit of resilience, fighting back with ingenuity and hope. This is the story of the reef's potential revival. The front line of this battle is in coral restoration. Scientists are no longer just documenting the loss, they are actively rebuilding. The most common method is coral gardening. Fragments of healthy, resilient corals are collected and grown in underwater nurseries on floating lines or tables. Once they reach a viable size, often in 6 to 12 months, they are outplanted or cemented back onto degraded sections of the reef. It's slow, meticulous work, like replanting a forest one tree at a time. But the scale is increasing. In the Caribbean, organizations have outplanted tens of thousands of corals, focusing on fast-growing, branching species that quickly provide habitat for fish. The next frontier is assisted evolution. Researchers are identifying supercorals, colonies that have naturally survived bleaching events or live in more acidic conditions, like in some lagoon mangrove systems. They're selectively breeding these resilient individuals in labs, crossbreeding colonies from different regions to increase genetic diversity, and even attempting to accelerate the adaptation of the zooxanthellae algae to higher temperatures. It's a race to help evolution keep pace with human-induced change. Technology is becoming a powerful ally. Satellites and drones map reef health on a grand scale, identifying bleaching hotspots. Underwater robots, or ROVs, monitor restoration sites and collect data in dangerous conditions. 3D printing is being used to create artificial reef structures that mimic the complex geometry of natural coral. These structures, made from pH-neutral materials like clay or ceramic, are placed on the seafloor to provide immediate habitat for fish and a stable platform for coral larvae to settle and grow. But perhaps the most critical strategy is the simplest and most ancient: protection. The establishment of large, fully protected marine protected areas, MPAs, where all fishing and extraction are banned, has proven unequivocally to work. Inside these reserves, fish populations are larger, more diverse, and the corals are healthier. These reserves act as source populations, spilling over fish and larvae into surrounding areas, benefiting fisheries. The data shows that well-managed MPAs can increase the biomass of fish by over 600% in just a few years. The challenge is enforcement, and here too, technology helps with satellite monitoring and acoustic sensors. However, all of this is treating the symptom, not the disease. The ultimate, non-negotiable solution is rapid global decarbonization. Reducing carbon emissions to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels is the single most important action for the long-term survival of coral reefs. Every fraction of a degree matters. Alongside this, reducing land-based pollution through sustainable agriculture and better wastewater management gives reefs the clean water they need to fight stress. Finally, there is consumer power, choosing sustainable seafood, avoiding products that harm reefs like certain sunscreens containing oxybenzone and octinoxate, and supporting tourism operators who follow best practices are direct actions anyone can take. The story of the tropical lagoon is at a crossroads. One path leads to a silent, monochrome world of algae and rubble. The other leads to a future where human ingenuity supports natural resilience, where protected lagoons continue to thrive, not just as museums of a past world, but as dynamic, evolving ecosystems. This future is not guaranteed, but it is possible. It requires a shift from seeing the lagoon as a resource to exploit or a paradise to visit. to recognizing it as a shared, living inheritance that is fundamental to the health of our planet and ourselves. The coral polyp has done its job for millennia. Now, the responsibility is ours. This journey through the tropical lagoon, from its volcanic birth to its vibrant life, its crucial human value, and its precarious future is just the beginning. The real work starts with you. I've given you the data, the story, and the stakes. Now I'm calling you to action. Do not let this end as a passive viewing experience. Subscribe to this channel to deepen your understanding with us. Like this video to amplify its message. Share it to break the bubble of ignorance. But most importantly, act. Research and support legitimate coral conservation organizations. Make climate-conscious choices in your daily life. Be a vocal advocate for our planet. The lagoon's fate is being written right now, and you hold the pen. Tell me in the comments, what is the one action you will take after watching this? The most beautiful ecosystems on Earth are counting on your answer.